Welcome to another episode of Relatable Luxury. I am Dan Cruz.
And I'm Oneida Cruz, and this is episode 3.
Oh, you got money, huh?
So today we're going to be talking about managing your peers, your friends, your family's expectations of your finances.
What do you mean by that?
So we all know that being an entrepreneur, you have so many things that you have to manage. Things that are struggle for you, things that are stationary, like your rent, your overhead, and then the emotions that you have to deal with, just you being an entrepreneur, and then also your employees. So there is a whole list of responsibilities that are endless. So now you're chasing the bag, but then you may have people who are in your life, in your circle, who are also chasing your bag with you. And what does that look like for you? So that's what we are going to be talking about today and sharing our journey in where we sit right now in January 2023 when it comes to our finances and the decisions that we've made to be in this space.
Well, this has been a long journey, and it continues to be a long journey when people's perception of you changes when they're not part of the journey. So when you come from a place where it's basically, where we came from, East Orange, to where we are now, from East Orange to Sussex County to Warren County to having a warehouse, there is that saying, oh, you got money, you've got money, you arrived. And that's not the case. That's not the case. We don't believe that we've arrived. We believe that we worked extremely hard to get to where we are now, going from a house that we had to sell.
Short sale.
After 13 years, and then going to an apartment for 3 years, a basement apartment, and having people, friends and family, come to your basement apartment and say, wow, you're living like this. But if that apartment was on a 10th floor, or it was the penthouse,
Right.
or it was the first floor, I don't think anybody would have said anything.
That's true.
But being that it was in a basement, it was nice. It was a luxury apartment. And us bringing in close over $300,000 as W-2 employees, people thought we were crazy.
Right. They could not understand what we were doing because we didn't share the plan with anybody. When we do things, we talk amongst ourselves, but it's very rare that we will let other people understand what the journey is going to look like.
Yeah. And we knew what the journey was going to look like because we had a plan in place. The plan was always to go to Sussex County, which we visited numerous of times throughout those 3 years. Even prior to those 3 years, we knew where we were going. But there was always a plan. There was always a plan, and the plan was to move up to the rural area and have more space.
Out the city. Well, we knew that in East Orange, we could not allow our kids to go to school there past the 3rd grade, like in a public school situation. And we are educators. We're not paying for school. So we knew that it was time for a shift. And I remember my cousin, when I think my grandmother passed away, and we went down to Baltimore, and we were just talking, like we had the repast at my aunt's house, and we were talking, and I shared with him. I said, he said, so what are y'all doing? Like, where y'all still in East Orange? I said, nah, we're leaving East Orange. And he was like, oh, so y'all about to go get y'all McMansion now? And I was like, well, yeah, I guess, yeah, you could say that. And it was like, okay, so that's the progression that you make. Like, you make the money, you move out of the hood, and you go buy this super big house with your big cars, with your family, and you done made it.
Right.
And I remember thinking, like, I wonder why he would say that to me. Like, we could have been moving anywhere. We could have been moving to West Orange. We could have been moving wherever. But in his mind, this was the natural progression of people like you. This is what you do.
What did you think about that?
It gave me pause because I was just like, why would you think that? Like, why? Where did that come from? Because I haven't talked to him, in years. Like, it's not like a cousin that I speak to often. And for him to say that, it was just like he took inventory, or he took stock of how we looked when we were there. And maybe he talked to you for a little bit. and he made this judgment call on this is what they're gonna do, and it was just like, okay,
Right, but he wasn't the only one. There were several people too
yeah,
that saw where we were going and couldn't understand why we were going, and they weren't part of the journey. If you remember, we had actually in the basement apartment we had the house that we wanted
yes, we did.
on a refrigerator, and we posted it on there for 3 years. That house poster was on their refrigerator, and every time we woke up or we went to the kitchen, that was what we were looking at, and that's what we wanted to be at. And it was a journey living in that basement apartment, because we had friends and family that would come in and say, man, you guys are living like this, we don't understand. But we always knew that we had a plan, and the plan was to get a bigger house, which we will get into. It's not all it's cracked up to be. To have a McMansion
In New Jersey, at least.
in New Jersey. But prior to that, we were looking to stay in Essex County and Livingston, New Jersey, and $500,000 didn't get you much in Essex County. It did get you a lot of neighbors. It did get you probably
A fixer-upper.
I would say maybe like 100 by 100 lot at the most, 100
Yeah.
by 100.
Yeah.
So knowing what $500,000 plus in Sussex County can get you, we decided to look out there.
Yes. And that was it was almost a no-brainer. Like, we knew that my commute into Manhattan would be twice as long. There was no public transportation directly near where we were. So it was going to be a complete lifestyle change.
Right. And it was a complete lifestyle change, absolutely, for both of us, but we already knew what the lifestyle entailed.
Yeah.
And I felt the change needed to happen, but more so, we lived in the first house, and our backyard was probably like what, maybe like, I think I did the backyard, I think it was like 15 by 50.
Right.
Yeah, it was about 15 by 50. And then we moved to the apartment, and we didn't have a yard.
We didn't. We were playing, the kids would play right in the little grass lot in front of the building when we weren't going to the park.
But we stayed in East Orange because the girls had great teachers
Yes.
at
Their elementary school.
yeah, both of them had really great kindergarten, first grade. Was it first grade? Yep, first grade teachers. They really, really had great teachers. But we ended up going to Sussex County.
Yeah.
Andover Township,
Yep.
to your McMansion.
Yep. And I feel like for us, it was like, we deserve this. Like, we worked, honey. We worked. When we go back through our tax records, we see all of the W-2s we were working per
Well,
year.
tell them how many jobs we had
Like,
in our 20s.
we both had like 3 W-2s.
Because this was in our 20s.
No, we were in our 30s.
No, I'm talking about we
oh,
worked
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
in our
We worked
20s.
a lot in our 20s.
And in the beginning, we worked a lot in our 30s.
We did. And then we have children in that mix, and we were like, all right, something has to give.
In that mix, we wanted space.
Yes.
And moving to Andover Township, because we had the business, instead of spray painting chairs in the parking lot next to the Garden State Parkway, right? We needed space to do a lot of these things that you wanted to do with the business.
Right.
And so being an entrepreneur, I believe people thought we were crazy. Well, they thought you were crazy.
Yeah.
I thought you were crazy. But here we are, all those years later.
Yeah.
But that house gave us gave us the opportunity to, 4-car garage, to store all of the chairs
Exactly.
and tables and
Yeah, you outfitted it to be like a warehouse space. You
Right.
really did. We had the whole perimeter of the 4-car garage as shelving and racking for the chairs and tables. And I knew about year 3 in that house, we were running out of space, because I bought the van, and then I bought the first van, the gray van, and I took up one of the 3 garages just for stuff. So we had the whole perimeter plus another one of the 4 that was just inventory. And I'm like, all right, it's too much happening right now.
And we did a lot at that house. We built, we spray painted, we did everything that we needed to, just like we do here at the warehouse, but we needed space, and we planned. I think it was after 3 years, we knew that we weren't going to live there past 4 years.
Yes.
And
But why though? But why did we say that? It was a distinct reason why we said this house is done.
yeah, I mean, first of all, we were paying $21,000 in taxes, and we knew our kids were going to be homeschooled. So
Right.
I said, listen, we can't homeschool and pay $21,000 in taxes and still do other things in our life.
Exactly.
And I know we came to a consensus where it was more of, hey, we can't afford to take a chance to buy a warehouse or rent a warehouse space and keep this mortgage.
Exactly.
And so we needed to make a decision.
Right. And that was another, we talked to our families, our parents. That was another thing that they didn't understand because, we started to say, we're looking to leave this house. And it was just like, what are y'all doing now? Like, come on, y'all. You done lived in the basement apartment. You have a beautiful house. We had a lot of family dinners there, a lot of parties there. There was the entertainment house. And now you telling us you want to move.
Yeah, because it wasn't all it's cracked up to be. We had 4,200 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't utilize every room.
Shucks, we didn't use a lot of space.
We really just utilized the kitchen.
And our bedroom.
And our bedroom. Our bedroom, because most of the time the girls would sleep, the kids would sleep with us in our bedroom.
Our bedroom was like a lot, 1,500 square feet?
It was bigger than our basement apartment, I'll tell you that.
Oh, by a lot.
Yeah, it was big. But it was also wasn't conducive for our lifestyle because it was just too much. We did, it was beautiful neighbors, beautiful property. We had the pool, but we also learned if you did not live that type of lifestyle, you wouldn't understand the type of lifestyle that we were living. And so we would have people say, ooh, you got money. Mm-hmm. And they would expect that you had money, and they would expect you to do many things. So if, let's say, for example, I said, man, I'm broke. No, you're not broke. You got this beautiful house, beautiful long driveway, beautiful BMWs. How can you be broke? But when you work to pay your bills, it just wasn't conducive at the time.
Right. And, we had a lot of rifts with friends and family as a result of that house. Like, there are people that we don't speak to today as we once did because their perception of how we were living just didn't meet their level of expectation. Like, for instance, Danny has childhood friends that have told him straight up, like, I don't even know how you here. Like, how are you here? Like, how is this your life right now?
Right. People don't understand. We worked extremely hard to get to where we were, and people didn't walk our shoes. I think we said this in the second episode. You worked a lot in your 20s. I worked a lot in my 20s, in our early 30s. We had a lot of jobs just to work. We worked a lot, and we waited till we were 30 to have kids. And so the journey was long, but we already knew we had a plan in place.
Right.
And when people came back, when we talk about how did you get here, it was unbelievable because they didn't see the journey. They didn't walk the shoes.
And then throwing a business in that, right? And I remember I would post, I think the first year we had the LeBron James, his daughter's first birthday party, right? And I post that. Then follow up with like the Cardi B first birthday party. I post that. So when you're telling people you're broke or you can't do something that they ask of you, but then they see that on social media, they're like, well, hold up.
Right.
What? This don't make sense.
No. Well, people's perception of, and I've learned this the hard way. We always had a beautiful house, and people always think that he had money. Me living and watching him, and then walking in my own shoes,
in a similar journey,
and saying, "Wow, this is the things that he used to say." People always thought he had money, and not saying that he didn't.
Right.
But people always thought.
Well, they always had expectations for his money.
Right. Right. They always had expectations, just like people had always had expectations for our money.
Right.
Right. You know, they thought that we could afford other homes, right? Remember, we had a family member come over to the house. We had a huge not a huge party, but we had a huge pool. And I remember one of my family members came, hey, you know, let me cut the grass. You know, share the wealth. We know you're making money. And I was sitting there just in disbelief, like, man, I can't believe he just said that. But that's what a lot of folks was thinking.
Yeah.
Were thinking. A lot of folks were thinking the same things. They just didn't say it.
Yeah. But see, they don't understand that we were paying upwards of $9,000 a month to maintain that house, to maintain living out there, because my commute, the cost of my commute almost tripled. You know, it was a lot of expenses to maintain that household, that house, and that lifestyle. And
Well, the mortgage alone was,
yeah, $6,000. So it was just like, what we doing?
you know,
You know, with all of that in the utilities, it was a lot. So we reached that point where we're like year 3, and you say to me, we should sell the house.
well, I said to you, we should sell the house because you wanted a warehouse.
Yes, I did say that.
And we had the 4-car garage, and it was just, it was packed. It was packed to capacity.
Yep.
We're to the point where we had to put the cars outside the driveway. And there was it was 3-car garage with the 4th one, but all the cars, including the van, was on the driveway. And so at this point, I was saying to you that maybe we should sell and get a warehouse.
Right.
But we also said, hey, we are not going to be paying $21,000 in taxes and homeschool our kids.
Yes. So right, because so we had a whole like shift during the 2019 year. Like so many things happened for us as far as mindset shifting that year, because one, we realized we were working a career, we were working in a bureaucracy that was not going to end in anything that was fruitful. We realized that. Then we realized that we could give our kids so much of a more fundamental, impactful education if we educated them ourselves. And then we said the cost of living, that debt to credit ratio was just so high. We were like taxed to capacity, because I got a lot of student loans, and we didn't have wiggle room to do much. So we said to ourselves on our walk, because this time we were on lockdown, we took walks every day, like hour-long walks around the neighborhood. And during that time is when we were building, we were planning. And in one of the walks, Danny is just like, yeah, okay, you want this, you want a warehouse, because we will always speak about what do you want for Petite Seats, because you're here now. And at that point I decided, like, this whole job and going into the city and what I was dealing with the pressures of work, I was over it. Like I knew at that point that I probably wasn't going to go back to work.
Right. And this is after we really, really set our footprints into the town.
Yes, we did.
You know, everyone knew who we were. Being on the school board, pretty much just getting to know the entire neighborhood. It was at the moment we're like, man, we just
got comfortable.
A lot of people know us. We know a lot of people. It was a community. And then COVID hit. And we decided to sell at the beginning of COVID in April. And we had the realtor come over, and she said, well, you should list it for this price. And I'm like, nah, we're not going to list it for that price.
We couldn't list it for that price.
No, we'd have just been breaking even and almost taking a loss.
Yeah.
And I said, no, we're not going to list it for that price. And then we just took a short break, because I think that was April. And then I was on a tennis court that entire summer. So we went from April in tennis court, we was on lockdown, so that's when we was taking the kids to the tennis court, and I met a gentleman there, and his daughter ended up being our realtor.
Right. And we basically interviewed her, and Danny said straight up, like, listen, we want to sell a house for this amount. Are you willing to do that?
She said, yeah, I'm willing to do whatever you want me to do, but if we don't sell it, we have to talk about a price. But she came in with the presentation, and we put it up for sale.
Yeah. So we put it up for sale, 130K more than what we purchased it for, and we were optimistic. Like, we had a lot of people come and look at the house, but we were optimistic because we saw the landscape of the real estate game right at that time when everybody was leaving New York City, and they were going to Miami, they were going to other places in New York, upstate New York, other places in New Jersey. And we said, we need to get this COVID.
I kind of knew. I knew we were going to sell it. I was always optimistic, and I always say, a lot of things that I've said since I was a child, it came to fruition. And I knew, I said, we're going to sell this, and we're going to make this money off the house. And we just got to be patient.
Yeah.
And we got a couple offers. We didn't like the offers. We was like, no. And then was it a third? I don't even remember, but I think it was the third or fourth offer where we said, okay, that's a good offer. Mm-hmm. Let's sell. And it was bittersweet. It was a sad time.
Yep. And we ended up leaving in February. I remember it was a snowstorm.
It was February 24th because it was, I remember one of my family's birthday. That day was February 24th. We closed. But prior to that, we thought about it. You want a warehouse? We're going to have to do this. We're going to have to sell. And we're going to, it's going to be a whole transition. But again, at that time, it was like, people counting your money, right? Or you got money. Why are you leaving this? Or why are you doing this? Or why are you doing that? It was just a lot of whys. And I got tired of the whys, because no one was walking in our shoes, in our journey. And our journey was long because your journey was about an hour and a half in the morning to go to work.
Yeah.
And then on the way back, it was about, 2.5 hours.
Exactly.
So our journey was long. So we ended up selling. We made a profit. And
then we split that money 3 ways.
3 ways?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We lived in it was a lot of sacrifice at that time, more so than when we moved into this basement apartment. The reason why it was such a sacrifice is because we had the cash, right? We were sitting on 6 figures of cash, and we had to hold, right? We still had to hold because we still had to figure out where were we going to live in the interim. We had to find a house.
Right.
And find the warehouse, but still at the same time, we had so many variables that were up on the air.
Yeah. And when we go back to the last episode, you were always like, why are you doing things at the last minute? I was like, just chill. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. The timing, just trust the timing. And it happened. And then imagine a week before that, we still didn't have a place to live when we sold the house. We were still looking. And you were like, where are we going? I said, I'm not sure. Where are we going? I'm not sure. And then I was on Realtor.com, faithfully. I saw a house for rent, and we moved we still lived in Sussex County, down the road about 15 minutes away. And we moved into this house. This cottage, which looked really nice.
Infested with spiders, bats.
Yeah, in
it was bad.
In the attic.
It was bad. It was bad. But guess what?
It
nice. Didn't matter. What was nice?
I think it was nice. It was nice. It wasn't that nice because we put everything in storage. We put everything in storage, and then a lot of it was in the house, and we were just crawling through stuff. It had wash and dry. It did what it did. It did what it did, but still, people was counting your money.
Yeah, because Petite Seats was rocking and rolling at that point.
Oh, yeah, it was rocking and
rolling. We had a very good summer that year. And it was like, for me, like I said, that cottage was not up to the level. But we didn't even pay attention to that because I was working that whole summer, like 90-hour weeks. So it was literally a place to lay your head. And then
that was during COVID.
That was it.
Yeah, that was during COVID. I was working from home.
Yeah.
I was working from home, so that was extremely fortunate. Saved a lot of money.
Yep.
From gadgets, and the kids are home, and
we traveled a lot that year as well.
Yep.
We traveled a lot. And that, I don't know how you say it, we were able to put things in perspective because we knew again what the end goal was. The end goal was to get the lease for this place, and the end goal was to find a house that was still on the level of what we were used to,
Right.
but half the cost.
It was half the cost, but we also was under contract with another house.
Oh, yes, the
Remember,
farm.
prior to
Yes,
go to the
I forgot about
apartment. And that fell through because they didn't want to fix the septic. So we believed and we thought that we were just going to this cottage house for a month.
Yes, we did.
And we told the owner, hey, we just coming for a month. And we ended up staying there for a few months,
Yeah.
3 or 4 months.
Right.
And the house just fell through. So we had to go find another house.
And that didn't happen.
And that didn't happen right away.
No, it didn't happen. Remember, we stayed in a hotel.
No, but yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It didn't happen right away, and we didn't close, so we had to move because the owner of this current house was showing the house, and he wanted to sell, and we ended up moving to a hotel, and then all hell broke loose when we went to the hotel because people thought we were just homeless.
Because we was. We were homeless. So we stayed in that hotel for 4 months. 4 months. And you remember, my parents, again, came to do a spot visit, and they were just like, what are y'all doing?
4 months.
What are you doing? Like, this room is too small. You need this, you need that. You know, it's like, it was a lot. And so we, again.
But it didn't bother us.
It didn't bother us.
It didn't faze us at all.
It did not faze us because guess what? We had a clean space. The kids were doing homeschool during the day. We went down to the lobby to do the homeschool. We had the warehouse, so that was a huge thing as well. We had gotten the warehouse at that time because this was now September, and we had a space and everything was in like 5 minutes of each other. So the hotel was around the corner from the warehouse.
Right.
It was super convenient, and we've never lived like that before.
Right. And I think what made it work was our relationship and our relationship with the kids. Because even when we lived in the 4,200 square foot house, we only utilized the kitchen and the bedroom, master bedroom. And we were always together. I mean, although they had their own beds and bedrooms, but we were always be in the same space. And so when we went to the cottage, it was a little smaller, but we were still together.
Yeah.
It was a very intimate setting.
Right.
So when we went to the hotel, it was pretty much the same because prior to all that, we was in a bedroom in a what was it, 600 square foot basement apartment.
That basement apartment.
Well, we were always together, and we always had a tight relationship. So it wasn't like.
And
we
our
were
babies
bothered.
are still very young. You know, they're not like teenagers or tweens that they need their own space or anything like that. That's not what we're dealing with. So I feel like, as you say, trust the timing. The timing of all of these transitions worked in our favor because of, you know, how our family is, their ages for the kids. I want to shift the conversation a little bit because I want to talk about this idea of leveraging your assets and your liabilities. So we talked about having a McMansion. We talked about having luxury cars. We talked about the month-long vacations that we used to take. How did that change, I would say, when we moved to Warren County? Like, I remember you and I having a conversation about just a car. Like, we don't need luxury cars anymore. And you went as far as when I said to you, like, I'm tired of driving the vans. I want a car. And what did you say to me?
I don't remember.
Well, where'd we get the car from?
Yeah, I said, because in life we look, I'm going to get to that answer, but in life we look at social media and commercials and all this and we see, but when you experience it, it's not all as it's cracked up to be. And so when you're paying a monthly mortgage that is extremely high and you're paying a monthly car note, and you just start thinking like, why am I wasting all this money? Yes, the car is nice, but I'm just wasting money. A car, it's a car you leave and it's no good. After 5-7 years, it's done.
Yeah. If you make it that long.
If you make it that long, right, with all the mileage. But so I said to you, listen, I'm going on Craigslist. and I'm going to find me a car for under $3,000.
You did.
And so I looked, like researched, and
You went to see some cars.
we went to go see some cars. Didn't like them, but the reason why we stayed with BMW was because, I fixed the cars myself. And I'm really handy with the BMWs. I know my way around the engine. And so I said, look, there's this car in Delaware. The guy wanted $2,900. And I looked at the engine and we just drove off with it.
3-hour drive in the middle of the summer.
Yep.
You're like, okay, let's take this money, get the cash. Actually, we didn't even have cash when we went down. We stopped at the ATM when we got there to get the cash to purchase the car.
Yeah.
And we decided, from here on out, we're buying stuff cash, and we're buying stuff, I don't want to say below our means, but we're buying things that are not flashy or extra just to get us from point A to point B.
Right. I mean, and we're putting the money elsewhere too. So it's
Yes.
not like we have a nice car which takes us from point A to B to C to D, and we also have the other vehicles, but we're not paying $800 in car notes.
Right.
Because you could put that $800 somewhere else, right? And so when we started this episode with, oh, you got money.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got money, but you're spending the money.
Yeah, as
And
soon as it comes in.
And not smart either. So a lot of our families and friends, we did have money and they were counting our money.
Yeah. And
Even when you were at the hotel.
yeah, of course. And it's this idea that I didn't think it was our job to talk about finances with our families because, again, if the perception is one way for them, let it stay that way. Because it's easier to live your life with whatever they perceive it to be than for you to sit and try to explain what you're doing or why you're doing it a specific way. Because 9 times out of 10, if a person hasn't lived that way, they're not going to understand it regardless.
Right.
So it's better just to do you, live your life. And when we decided to just shift things, I remember when we got this warehouse, so it was September, and I resigned from my job like 2 weeks after we signed the lease on this place. And I had a conversation with my parents, and I'm like, we got the warehouse. And she was like, well, hold on. Oh, we got the warehouse, and I quit my job. She's like, well, hold on, what? How you do that? You're working 17 years in a space and you quit. And I said to her, I said, Mommy, I have a pension with them, right? If I don't stay a full 30 years, they're cutting 27% off the top. I'm not working for anybody for 30 years. No, I'm not. And I've seen my parents do it. I've seen them retire. And the money ain't what it's supposed to be. The math ain't mathing. So I work for 30 years for the city of New York, and my pension is what, $70K a year?
Because yesterday's price
Oh yeah,
ain't today's price.
No, we ain't doing that. And as you see, they're defunding pension plans right now because of what's happening with this recession. So imagine I work 30 years for the city, and I walk away making what, $70,000 a year. That's what we were doing 15-week session with Petite Seats. So I said, no, we got to reevaluate this whole money thing. And as long as we have a plan, and as long as we don't live above our means, and we save, and you have that Roth so you can fund your own retirement, you can do it.
And you also have the freedom.
Oh gosh,
You
yes.
have the freedom to do many things.
That is what people never understand.
We have the freedom. I mean, even the freedom of living in a hotel for 3 or 4 months. You know what it was great. I mean, you didn't have to cut the lawn.
Yeah, people
Right?
turning down your sheets.
You just walk in, go to sleep. Everything was cleaned. That's the type of stuff that we're talking about. It's just everything has a purpose.
Yeah.
And so moving to this new house, we were there and we were like, hey, we got to make this work.
Right.
We got to make this work for us. And we did. We were making it work with the house. So the plan was always to have a warehouse and a house. And now I believe our house is a lot better than our last house. It's not as big.
How do you say it? It's still very much more than what most people would live in. It's still a big house. The space is just used differently. Like the house that we're in now, we don't have the Sub-Zero refrigerator. So the kitchen is smaller, right? But then we have a basement that we're building out that we were not able to do before because we couldn't afford to. So we have that money.
So we just got to make it work. And so at the end of the day, follow your dreams, your goals, and don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something. We both know, as an entrepreneur who started the business,
Yep.
just got to keep going.
And don't share poverty. This idea that you're working 90 hours a week sometimes. Don't put yourself in a position where you feel like you are obligated to help others, especially people who don't support you or haven't supported you. That's something that you have to, give yourself that grace. Do not put yourself in a position where you have to support someone else who is not supporting you.
Yeah, because the journey is long.
Yeah.
And no one is walking in your shoes for whatever years, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I didn't walk in your shoes.
Yes.
For all those years you've ran a business. And I couldn't tell you how it went those 7 years until I started walking in those shoes. So, at the end of the day, don't share poverty. Take it from you. It was a long road. So anyway, this concludes this episode. But please stay tuned to our next episode, which we're going to be talking about tips for building a sustainable business.
Yes.
We will have a guest on episode 5.
Yep.
So please stay tuned and have a good night, people.
Yes, please share us on your Instagram. If you want to give us a DM to give us feedback for this episode, please do. We are on Instagram at Relatable Luxury Podcast. And we are also on YouTube under Petite Seats. So please look us up, subscribe, like, share, and we'll see you soon.
Peace.